Well, it was a game of, I guess, three parts on the weekend, but luckily enough, we held on and then finished strongly in the end to run out by 30 points against the Blues.
Oh, geez, there were some nervous times in that last quarter. Geez, they were really coming hard, the Blues. 7 straight goals
Mm.
after we led by, 56 points at one stage, and they got it back to 2 kicks not long into the last quarter. So it was pretty nervous times, but we did enough to hang on and fight off that really spirited comeback from the Blues, which I think is a really good thing.
Yeah.
At the time, I was just like, how the hell have we given this lead up and put ourselves in a position of losing this game? Because it would have been an absolute disaster if we did lose after playing so well. But
Yeah.
I think you can take positives out of that, knowing they fought off that as well.
Yeah,
They
for
had
sure.
to really dig into that last quarter and come out the other side. So,
And also, I guess, the progression and development across the season. Like, I think Fagan said, you look at the Gold Coast game where we just hang on in
yeah,
the end and the Bulldogs
yeah,
game where we did get overrun, but this time around we've had that second wind. And I guess if you isolate Carlton as an opposition, like last year we held on, they finished furiously and probably should have won at the Gabba, but didn't. And then, yeah, fast forward 12 months, we hung on, we kicked away late. So you can see the signs there of development and progress in the young group.
Oh, you definitely can. And yeah, you go back to that Bulldogs game, and that was one, in hindsight, we probably should have won, considering the Dogs aren't as good as they were last year. And the faltering bit, we played some really good footy that day, but just didn't probably have the belief and the run in us that day. But I think you can really see the progression there with the young guys and knowing how to work and fight when teams really do come at them. Because even if we had won by, say, 70, 80 points, it really went on with it in the second half. Like, it would have been a great result, percentage boosting win, and one of our biggest wins in ages. But I think you probably do get more out of a win like that.
Yeah, for sure.
You
It
have to
shows a lot
show a
of
bit of
character.
character in
Yeah,
that last
yeah.
score. Yeah.
So we'll talk about the first half, I guess. What was it in your mind that set it up for us in that first half? What particular facet, I guess, of the game?
Oh, I think just the midfield, we were just really on top, and Beams, Zorko, and Rockliff just completely shut Bryce Gibbs out of the game. It was a really interesting role he was given. He's not normally known to be a tagger, Rocky,
No.
throughout his career. He wouldn't have done it too many times, but to keep Bryce Gibbs out of the game, we know what he can do. He's had a super season, Bryce Gibbs. That game against the Gold Coast is one of the greatest games you could ever hope for. So he's really dangerous, and to just completely shed him out of the game, that was really important. And yeah, Beams, Zorko, after quiet games the last week, they really got on top, and we just made the most of our opportunities going forward. I think that's
We were
what,
pretty efficient.
yeah, that's probably cost us a lot this season. We've gone forward and probably haven't. And you can see the progression there, and you can see the development that I think there's just more. We just look more assured going forward. Like early in the season, it'd just be a long kick inside 50, just panic and hope for the best. But now we're just really spotting up options. We're waiting for guys to come through, and yeah, there's just a sense of calm there that we haven't seen for quite a while.
I think what really got us going in the first half was our ability to rack up uncontested possessions. Like, for the game, we finished plus 120 on Carlton, and we're just able to create overlap and the marks, and just the ball use coming back through the corridor and opening it up with those 45 kicks. It was almost surgical in the way that we were just able to link up and find, open players at will. And as you said, it just opened it up for the rest of the ground, and we looked really good going inside 50. It was really impressive to watch. Obviously, we did, I guess, falter after the break, and Carlton came back to their credit. They did well, and I think got it to as close as 2 goals at one stage before we did kick away late. But yeah, what do you think went wrong for us in that phase of the game when Carlton did challenge us?
Yeah, Carlton they're just winning more of the ball. I think we just went a bit flat. That can probably happen. We haven't been out to a lead like that before. And 56 points up at, I don't think, might not have been 56 points, but we were up 56 points at one stage, and 12 goals to 3 in the first half. You're not going to lose too many games there, and maybe there's a bit of complacency that crept in, just a bit of natural complacency. But yeah, Carlton, they're a pretty good side. They're well coached, and they're always going to come back. They weren't just going to lie down. They've been a really good defensive unit this year. So I think, we just weren't getting our hands on the ball in the third quarter and probably the start of the fourth.
Yeah, they seem to do as they please out of the clearances, which sort of looked like a flashback to the last few weeks against like Geelong and Richmond when they sort of got a run on and got it out of the centre, which did have cause for concern. I was pretty worried at that time that the Blues would just come with the wind, but we did finish stronger. As you touched on there, I think one of the most surprising things was how freely we did score. Like, Carlton are a really dour defensive team, but
yeah,
I think at halftime we had 72 points, and our average for the year was about 80 before that game. So, yeah, credit to the coaching staff, and as you said, the role on Bryce Gibbs definitely played its part. But 4 marks to them. It was a really impressive performance. We might do our 3-2-1. We'll start with yours. Who you think were our best players? So that's excluding Carlton. We won't worry about them. We'll just do our 3-2-1.
Yeah, it's a really tough one this week because there were so many guys that played varying type roles. I think you just got to go 3 to Beams, just because you kicked the 3 goals, 30 possessions, set us up beautifully in that first half. Because that really good long goal, bombed from outside 50, and set up the play and just really responded because he was struggling with that injury, came back a bit early, and he had been struggling to recapture his best form, but he was back to it on the weekend, and I think he more than deserves his 3 votes. But Rockliff had one of his quieter games in terms of possessions.
Yeah.
10 possessions for the game, you'd think, wow, he's had an absolute stinker. But to keep Bryce Gibbs to 8 possessions, basically their best player this year, would be winning their best and fairest, I would have thought. I think that gets him the 2.
Yeah,
that's how influential he was.
I agree with you on the 2. I had him pegged as my 2. But before we get your 1, I think we'll just expand on Rocky a bit as well, because we talked about last week how, we struggled to sort of carry 2 injured players and Beams and Rocky. But I think the coaching staff, and I think Fagan actually credited Danny Daly with the idea, but we found a way to use Rockliff without exposing his injury. Like, that run with roll was really clever strategy from us. And as we've said a couple of times now, he just completely blanketed Bryce Gibbs, their best player. So it's really, I think it's really positive that we've found another way to use him just until he gets full fitness. Obviously, he's not quite there, but hopefully by the end of the season, he's back to 100% and he won't have to play those negating roles. But it's a credit to him as well that, who has been our best midfielder for the last few years, can just sort of sacrifice his own game and say, all right, I'm not going to worry about winning the ball. I'm just going to do the team thing and make sure this bloke doesn't do anything. It's a real credit to his character.
Oh, absolutely. And I know there were a few comments going around saying he looked disinterested and he might have been on the way out. He's thinking about his contract and going to another club. But I think it's just more the injury than anything. And he has been down on what he is known to do. But, to use him in that different role, and he still is injured, and to do that for the team, just to sacrifice a lot of his own ball, only the 10 possessions, but to shut down the opposition's best player, that just shows what a great player he is and just so useful, even though he's known as that midfielder that can rack up high possessions, gain a lot of clearances. He's shown another string to his bow.
Yeah, for sure. And to wrap up the votes, who was your number 1 vote?
I think Zorko, 3 goals again, 26 possessions. I think he was really good. But you can go through a lot of guys there. I think Jared Berry had one of his best games. Probably stiff not to get another rising star for the club.
Yeah, who the bloody really hell's Pelican? Game. Lewis Pelican.
Yeah, Pelican. Jeez, absolutely. Who is he? I've never heard of this guy, and he's got a bloody rising star nomination. Not happy AFL. But I'm sure Jared Berry will get one by the year's out.
Yeah, and I mean...
Alex Witherden again, terrific. Kicked a great goal. Ryan Lester, I thought, really stood up.
Yeah.
He had a terrific game. Steph Martin had a pretty good game in the ruck, I would have thought. Gained a fair bit of the ball.
Lester, the one you mentioned, I had as my one vote, just because I think he was the one that sort of really stepped up when Carlton challenged us. Like, they threw him back in defence, took a couple of grabs, and just the way he used the ball, he was so clean, and that's not something typically characteristic of Ryan Lester's game, but he was really calm and composed, and I think he finished with 26 or 28 touches. I'd actually back him to win his first ever Brownlow vote after that game. But
he'd be up there for sure.
And obviously kicked a goal, so yeah, just being that real utility and being able to go both ends of the ground. So he was my one vote, and I went the other way from you with the other Dayne. I went Zorko as my 3. Just in that first half, I thought he was unstoppable and really was crucial in setting up that 9-10 goal lead at the halftime break. Like, he did, I guess, go quiet after halftime, but he still finished with a lot of touches and a lot of metres gained and his 3 goals. And that's just the thing about Zorko, isn't it? He needs like 1% of a chance anywhere near 50 and it could be a goal. Like, some of the goals he kicked on the weekend were just, peak opportunistic. It's just, and I think we've talked about it before in this podcast, that it's going to be really exciting when he can just play as like a stay-at-home forward pocket and just wreak absolute havoc on defences when the ball hits the ground and he's just there slotting goals from all over the place. But it's probably a few years away before that happens, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on when, potentially we're premiership contenders and there's other blokes in the midfield like McCluggage and Witherden and Berry.
For sure.
But it wasn't all great news on the Zorko front from the weekend. He did get reported and he will miss the West Coast game, unless, of course, we do challenge. I personally think...
I believe we are thinking about it.
Yeah, Fagan on the record is saying they're thinking about it. But personally, I think we probably won't. I mean, it's a big risk with
huge risk.
MRPs. You challenge and you automatically, lose another week. And we've got a pretty winnable game against the Bullies coming up after the trip over to Perth. So you wouldn't really want to, rule out your most informed midfielder for that one.
No, I don't think we should appeal just because we do have West Coast. We're probably not going to win that over there.
No.
Anyway, even with Zorko. And that game against the Bulldogs is very winnable now. We nearly got them at the start of the year at Etihad. And they're not going great. And I think we're a chance at the Gabba. But, MRP has absolutely lost the plot. Absolutely lost the plot. And I think we spoke about it last week that there are different categories for different players. If you are in Brownlow contention, you're going to have to do something pretty ridiculous to get rubbed out. You go back to Trent Cotchin and what he did a few weeks ago, absolutely identical to what Zorko did on the weekend. And Cotchin's escapes without a game suspension and Zorko gets the week. So, no, it's really frustrating. There's so much inconsistency there with the MRP, and the umpire at the time saw it and didn't react. So
that was the most bizarre thing, I think, was that, you're right, it happened right in front of that umpire, and it was at the start of the third quarter, I think. And no free kick, no nothing. But then come Monday, he's been rubbed out for a week. The most frustrating thing is, you're right, is the inconsistency in the MRP. Like, personally, I think, it was pretty dumb of him to do that, and he probably does deserve a week, but not on the basis that Cotchin got off. Like, if you look at the precedence there, then you say, all right, fine, then he gets off, you can be consistent. But in the whole scheme of things, they both probably should have missed a week, and, I think it's...
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just, the inconsistency.
The other one, which I actually, commented on Twitter and was probably more frustrated with, was the fact that he got a $1,000 fine for the strike, in inverted commas, on Sam Petrescu-Seaton, which was quite clearly a dive on his part. and that was an
Clearly.
$1,000 fine for Zorko. And
that's what we're.
Sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, just with inconsistency. Just they're talking about trying to stamp out diving, and that was blatant dive. And how does he get a $1,000 fine? It just doesn't make any sense. They've just completely. They're a farce at the moment.
It was really frustrating. And I think the free kick is, it's touch and go if that's a free kick in itself. But to be fined, that's really disappointing. But so in a word, do you think we'll challenge it?
I think it's a massive risk. I don't think we will. They have talked about it. But I think there probably is still a chance, considering there is precedence there. They can go back to that Koch and hit and go, what's the difference between that and that?
But I think that's the problem with the MRP. You can't actually use precedence. Like, I think if you went to the tribunal, then you could, but because it's an MRP...
Oh, that's what... I think that's what would happen, though. If we did challenge it, it would go to the tribunal.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, watch this space, I guess. But I'd be surprised if we did challenge it. But the inconsistency is ridiculously frustrating. And Zorko will miss this weekend's game against West Coast, who blew it badly against Collingwood. I think they were up by about 5 goals late in that game, and Collingwood just steamrolled them. At Etihad to continue West Coast's Blues in Victoria. The thing that worries me about this game is, West Coast on the rebound and
at home.
We'll be hurting at home, and we'll probably want to make a statement, I guess, and we could suffer as a consequence of that. But it's just another challenge for our young and developing group, I guess.
Yeah, huge challenge to go over there. And I think the corresponding game last year might have been round 1, actually.
Yeah, it was.
We did okay that day. We got blown out, but it was a high-scoring game, and we did okay. But that's a fairly long time ago now. And
yeah,
bit of a different side. But yeah, West Coast, they pulled off one of the great chokes on Sunday.
Yeah,
I thought, okay, I was getting a bit nervous late in our game, thinking, oh, geez. I've just had to go at West Coast to a few of my mates, and we could be on the verge of choking as well, but luckily we didn't. But yeah, I think that the Essendon game against Sydney and then the West Coast game against Collingwood on Sunday, they're two of the biggest chokes I've seen in AFL football.
Yeah,
like West Coast were home and hose. Collingwood had 2 players on the bench, could not come on, and they've lost. So yeah, they're going to be really filthy. Big milestone game for Josh Kennedy's 200th. So
is it
actually get up in that one? So that,
speaking of milestones, I think it's actually Rocky's 150 this weekend.
Yeah, he'd be getting close for sure.
Yeah, so that's
getting very close.
Another milestone if he does get up. We know he's struggling with that injury. So obviously Zorko will miss. Well, he might challenge, but we'll go with the idea that he'll miss this weekend. And Nick Robbo should be available, coming back from his suspension. Any other changes you'd foresee? There were a couple of sore players. Josh Walker, who played well. We should probably give him a shout out. And I think Dan McStay had a bit of a shoulder niggle at one point. They both did run out the game, but I suppose you never know how serious these things are. Besides that, any changes you foresee?
Yeah, I don't think you can make any unforced changes. I think that side, there weren't too many passengers in there, but yeah, Josh Walker might be a bit sore and came off, didn't look like he was going to come back on, but yeah, I can't really see too many changes, but yeah, obviously if Josh Walker's out, we'll have to probably bring in another big body.
So maybe just straightforward as Robbo for Zorko. Fingers crossed on the injury front, I guess. But
yeah,
don't think anyone. I didn't see the reserves game this weekend, but I don't think anyone really slammed down the door by the sounds of it.
No.
Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
Probably just going back to Ryan Lester and Tom Rockliff. I think, Mike Whiting wrote a piece today he was speaking to Ryan Lester and just spoke to him a bit about Rocky. And they're good mates. And Lester said, really think the club's in the best shape it's been in for 4 or 5 years. So I don't see why he'd leave. I know he's certainly enjoying his time on the Fags, David Noble and some of us leaders. We're seeing all the positives and lots of the young guys. So, I don't know what he can take out of that. He's obviously going to back his mate to stay. But, it's interesting to say, like, Ryan Lester's been there since, I think he was drafted in 2010. He's been there for a while now, and he's saying the club's in the best shape it's been in 4 or 5 years, which I think a lot of people agree with. But
definitely feels like that. And
it does.
Just on the Rocky front as well, personally, I don't know how you feel, but personally I'm pretty comfortable with how that situation is. Like, I know he's obviously out of contract and whatnot, but not, jumping at shadows probably to the extent we might have been with Shaki a few months ago. So, I'm pretty comfortable with how that one sits, and I think it'll play out in our favour at the back end of the season, if not before. Is that how you feel as well? So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I see him staying at this stage, but if it gets to a point where he wants to leave, I think we'll be well and truly compensated. But I think it's going to work out in our favour either way. But obviously hoping he does stay.
Just on Mike Whiting, you mentioned it's probably worth following up the Luke Hodge story. I guess that he started. It was actually noted by Tom Brown. What did he say? He said, I believe that clubs will inquire about Luke Hodge, potentially Brisbane. He loves playing. I guess I watch this space kind of tweet. So I think there definitely is a bit of smoke, and we did speak to Mike about it, and he sort of shared that view as well. So it's not the last we're going to hear about that one, I don't think.
No, I don't think so at all. I think you're spot on there, Keeg. So hopefully. Yeah, we hear more of that in coming weeks.
It'll be a great pickup for us, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
All right, mate. Well, that wraps up another episode. Thanks for that.
All right. Thanks, Keegs.